Guys, so this is my house. I don't know what to do.
Day 4 of the U.S. winter weather crisis, and things only seem to be getting worse, especially in Texas, where as of Thursday afternoon, 500,000 people are still without power and heat as electricity companies fail to deal with rare sub-zero temperatures.
Got the shower on hot, and I got about 10 jackets on, and I don't think I'm gonna make it no more.
A quarter of the residents in the state have been told to boil their own drinking water as supply systems are hit. Adding insult to injury, a state famous for its oil industry is also suffering from a shortage of petrol. Texas is America's second most populous state, with 29 million residents living in an area larger than the whole of France. It's the only U.S. state that has its own electricity grid and is not part of the national system by its own choice, which has allowed it to bypass federal regulations designed to protect against exactly these kinds of conditions.
Hey, podcast family. Welcome to Motherhood in Black and White. I'm Kaanji.
And I'm Tara.
And we are coming to you from frigid Texas. 2 words that I never thought I would say, but we wanted to start this episode by thanking all of our family and friends and our listeners who've reached out to us to check on us as we have experienced Snowmageddon this year in this week.
Snovid
2021. I said that 2021 is feeling very 2020-ish, but
oh my gosh.
We wanted to thank everyone for reaching out, for checking in. It's so important to check in with your community and with people, but we wanted to say that even though Tara and I and our families were inconvenienced, we were never imperiled and we are safe.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you for that. So we're going to talk a little bit this episode about what this week has brought us. And we're going to start with a quote from the late, great Emmy and Tony winning actress, Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson once said, "Challenges make you discover things about yourself you never really knew." And Tara, that is so appropriate this week, don't you think?
Yes, it's absolutely appropriate for sure.
So for those of you outside of Texas, this week we experienced the Great Freeze and a new word to add to the Webster's Dictionary, the rotating blackouts, right, Tara?
That is already the phrase of 2021 here in Texas.
Unfortunately, so can you share with us a little bit about what the last week was like for you and for your family, and if you had any rotating blackouts or prolonged periods of blackouts, or just share with us kind of like where you started and how you're doing now.
We did not have rotating blackouts. We had full blackouts. So at my house, Sunday was Valentine's Day and it snowed and it was gorgeous. And we were all so excited because it never snows here. And then about 2 a.m. on Monday, our power went out. And the only reason we knew is because my husband sleeps with a fan. So when the power goes out, you can hear it. Like it goes completely silent in the house. And we both kind of woke up. We were like, oh no, the power's out. It was out for about 3 hours. It was getting really cold in the house. And we had heard this might be coming. So we were like, okay. So the power went out about 9 a.m. on Monday. And then it was off for about 10 hours straight. So we were in the house all day Monday, no power. And then we had maybe an hour in the evening, and then it was off all night. And at that point, temps were getting down to like 7, and it was really frustrating. We have a fireplace that's gas, so that was a benefit. We turned that on, but we all essentially just kind of camped in the house. We built like a little nest, a bunch of blankets, and kept the fireplace going, and just all piled up in there for 2 days.
Yeah.
I think we had maybe 3 hours total over that 48 hours. The minute it would come on, we would like start the coffee machine, fry some eggs, plug in the electronics, and then just get as much out of it as we could, and then just hunker down for the rest of it. But it was cold. It was inconvenient. It was rough.
Yeah. You mentioned what happened when the power came on. It was kind of a game of beat the clock. Now,
yes,
even though we are just a few miles from each other physically, our experiences were a little bit different because we were a part of the section of the grid that did just have these rotating blackouts. So for our situation, the power would be on for 20 to 30 minutes, and then it would be off for anywhere from 40 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
The problem was we didn't know when the power was going to go off.
Yeah.
We didn't know how long it was going to stay off.
Yeah.
And so it was just, as I shared at the beginning of the episode, it was inconvenient because we were still trying to work from home. No one could leave the house. The snow conditions created a lot of ice on the roads. And so we were indoors. We still had to work. The school district canceled classes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of parents were in situations where we had to work, but we didn't have internet access.
Yep.
And some people didn't have food. Some people didn't have heat. Some people completely lost power. But in our situation, we were fortunate. We had the ability, we have a gas fireplace. And so the three of us hunkered down together and we made the most of it. When the power came back on, we played Beat the Clock. It was kind of like that game growing up, Tara. Do you remember the game Perfection?
Yeah.
Where you had all the little shapes and you set the timer.
Do it all in the same. Yeah.
Yeah, until the thing pops up. That's how it felt every 20 minutes or so, because as soon as the power is on, okay, now it's on and we have to cook and we have to, fill up water bottles and boil water.
Charge the devices so we aren't completely in the dark. Yeah. It was, well, and we were laughing because we knew it was coming. So we bought all this food to prep, but we bought food that had to be cooked and we don't have a gas range. We just weren't thinking about power blackouts. You know what I mean? We were thinking we won't be able to leave the house for a few days. We were not thinking like we weren't going to have any power or heat. It was just kind of caught us by surprise.
For me, we knew that it was coming. And also, when we go shopping, sometimes we shop when we are at our best. And so I bought a lot of healthful foods. But when we're in these situations where it's anxiety producing, I just wanted potato chips.
I do not want salad and fruit. I do not want it. Don't come to me with that.
And I looked in the refrigerator and all I had was strawberries and spinach. And I said, this is not going to cut it. But again, we couldn't leave. I wasn't prepared.
Did not prepare for this correctly.
This experience taught me what it's like to be without and be in a situation without. And I had never experienced a prolonged blackout, a situation where we had freezing temperatures and I was worried for the safety of my family in that way. And this was just a continuation, I think, of everything that we have gone through for the past 12 months. And the only thing that I can say is for a lot of moms, for a lot of families and parents, it was just another anxiety-producing situation that comes on the heels of several other anxiety-producing situations. Don't you think, Tara?
Yeah. My husband, a couple of times, we had some friends that had power more than we did. And they were like, you can come over. And part of me was like, I was in such a state of like anxiety and feeling so feral. I was like, I would rather just be uncomfortable at our house where I don't have to also... and we had the dog. I mean, it was just a lot. So I was like frozen in anxiety about it, like, so to speak. I thought about it this morning because I was sitting at the breakfast table, sort of like, I put the house back together yesterday. We've had power for a couple of days now. So we feel like we got the internet back yesterday. I feel like I'm climbing back to civilization. And this morning I was like thinking about all the things I have to catch up on. And I was like, oh, I'm just back to my regular anxiety now, not my, traumatic event anxiety. But it made me think about how, you and I have joked about March is coming up and, 12 months ago, they sent our kids home and we never took them back kind of thing. And, we've been living in this heightened sense of anxiety for a year and just getting really concerned about what living through so many traumatic events is going to do to our kids. Like, I'm just as an adult, I feel like I have the tools on board to manage these things, but I'm just so worried about what this is going to mean for our kids as they get older, like this entire year, education wise, what they've missed, socially, what they've missed, traumatic, what they've had to live through. Like Gage kind of thought it was a camp out. I think he was fine. I don't think he felt anxious on the surface, but it was tough. It was really scary, especially that first night. It was pretty scary sleeping in our living room and it was so cold and we knew we'd be fine, but it still get your heart rate up.
Worrying is what we as mothers do. From the minute that we as women either find out we're expecting a child through pregnancy or through adoption or through any other means, immediately the thing that we do is worry about how we can provide and keep this other human alive, and it comes to the point where if you were pregnant, the first day I found out I was pregnant, we had leftover sushi in the refrigerator and I was like, throw it all out, throw everything out. And he's like, no fish. And so having a situation like we've had and what we've been experiencing for the last 12 months is that we cannot, in some situations, really protect our kids. And that was what was frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to talk about and touch base about Senator Ted Cruz and his wife, Heidi Cruz, who were getting a lot of negative attention about their decision halfway through this blackout and the power outages and the freezing temperatures to take their kids and their family to Cancun. Now, some people are saying, well, yeah, they wanted to protect their families. Even Senator Cruz has said he wanted to protect his kids. But for me, what offended me the most and what upsets me the most is this elected official who was in the middle of and experiencing what all of his constituents were going through. And now, remember, this was not just something that was happening in the Dallas, Texas area or the Houston area. This was statewide.
Right.
Every county in the state that he represents was suffering and people were struggling. And the leaked text messages that from his wife to her friends about like, hey, it's freezing in the house. Let's go to Cancun. That showed a level of privilege and a lack of empathy that I think could have been so much and so telling. So I wonder, like, what could have happened if Senator Cruz and his wife, who knew that their family were going to be okay, like they weren't going to freeze to death. They were safe.
That's exactly right. The same thing I kept saying to Jason, like, listen, we're uncomfortable, but we're all right. We're going to be all right. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
They're going to be okay. If they had experienced that for a few hours, if their kids had experienced it and then been able to say, can you then imagine what must happen, what it must feel like for parents who don't have the ability to stay at a Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, who don't have the ability to call police and get an escort to the airport, who are in a situation where your children are freezing, where you do not have the ability to leave your house, your apartment, your trailer, or to warm them up. If for a moment, for an hour, for a day, if he could have felt that and be like, oh, wait a second, I can do something because I'm an elected official here. Like,
Right. I have resources to help other people.
That we, as normal citizens, Tara, you and I may have the heart to help people, but we just didn't have the ability to pick up a phone and call FEMA and ask for assistance.
I couldn't leave my house and volunteer and hand things out. I mean, I was in it. Yeah, exactly right.
Or to coordinate those, to reach out to businesses that may have resources and say, can you please open your center? This is the senator calling, asking you to open your house of worship, to give out some of the food in your grocery stores, to open your restaurant. I'm giving you the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I really think that in times like this, we have the opportunity and the ability to make these teachable moments for our kids and also for ourselves. But so often, because of where we stand and sometimes because of the privileges that we have, that we've inherited, that we've worked for, we don't do that. And we miss the opportunity to connect with other people. And that's what breaks my heart on such a visceral level.
Yeah, I don't know what word to use. I know you used the word offended. I was incensed when the news first hit because at the time I was still sitting in my house freezing.
No power.
When the news first hit and it just looked like they just decided to bounce, I was mad. And then when it came back and he made the comment about, being a good dad, I could understand it. But I was like, what is that teaching your kid? Like it's uncomfortable. So let's just roll out. And I don't want to focus 100% of our attention on it because there were 99% more people that were stepping up and helping and reaching out and volunteering. I mean, the thing I love coming out of these tragedies is to read the stories of the people who helped, who stepped up. And I feel like there's a missed lesson for his kids in that moment. Gage and I were sitting together in the cold on the couch, and I was Venmoing, mutual aid groups. And there was a friend I know who started a post where people could just say, here's my Cash App. We don't have any food. And I was just Cash App. I mean, I was doing what I could from my couch. And I that's the lesson I want to teach. You know what I mean? My kid, like, listen, we're uncomfortable, but there's a lot of people doing much worse. So let's see if we can't help them while we're sitting here being uncomfortable.
We started the show by talking about how people from outside of Texas have reached out to us. Some of our listeners who we've never met were checking in on us people here in the state of Texas were checking in on each other, and it did show communities rising to the level to be able to help one another.
Yeah.
And as we start to thaw out and start to go forward, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing. There's going to be a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Mm-hmm.
But there also just needs to be a plan going forward with how we can prevent this from happening again. Because these quote unquote unprecedented times or once in a lifetime or once in a generation experiences, spoiler, they're coming a lot more frequently. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
This once, climate change is real. They're like, this was a once in a lifetime or once in a generation event.
Pandemics never happen.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Right. So it's like, well, we are going to prepare for this. And that's something that we do even with parenting our kids, because hope isn't a parenting strategy,
Right.
Wishful thinking isn't a parenting strategy. So we do understand and recognize that we kind of should be prepared. And like you mentioned, we weren't prepared for prolonged power outages.
Mm-hmm.
We were very fortunate where we live. We had blankets. We had each other.
Yeah.
We had board games and we had puzzles and we had playing cards. And we had each other.
Yeah.
And we had the ability to connect.
Yeah. I mean, just to paint a picture, because I know I've also had people be like, oh, well, we do that all the time up north. And I hear you. Listen, I know we don't do snow very well. That's not our forte. But I mean, I had employees that were burning furniture in their fireplace because they had a wood burning fireplace. And the only way to keep a fire going was to burn furniture and to burn clothes and to burn their kids' toys. Like that was happening in the city with people who have privilege and have things. And we had 2 toilets freeze up. So we were down to 1 and we were praying to God that one would keep working because we didn't want to have to try the garbage bag trick that we'd seen other people trying. I mean, now we're going to have this huge plumbing crisis because, so many houses. Yesterday, my bank, the power was out at the building because there was a giant water leak. So this is what we're going to see the next few weeks. I mean, people are still hurting. People that had to throw their food out and don't have the money to just fill the refrigerator back up. That's an unexpected item. So we're learning a lot about how to plan ahead or what people are going to need. And we're putting together a lot of resources to help.
And podcast family, that's something that we are going to do is we're going to share on our Instagram page and also in the show notes some resources that Tara and I are providing for those of you who really have the hearts to help and have the ability and the means to do so. And just look at a situation on the news and say, well, what is it that I can do? What can I do? And we are a better society, the global society that we are, if we look in situations from where we sit. And it can extend whatever we can to people. I often say that where we sit determines what we see. And for those of us that were in the midst of it, we weren't really seeing what was going on with other people because we were in survival mode. It was a point where it was like, okay, well, what can I do to make sure we're okay? People around us are okay. And Tara, you and I text each other so many times this week because, again, we both are working for financial institutions that were up and running and our sons were home from school, and we kind of got overwhelming, to put it mildly, because we're dealing with work issues and housing issues and worrying about relatives, right?
Yes.
We talked about it and said, it's okay in this moment to just
survive. Like just the bare minimum is totally okay. Yes,
but we are people who are type A personalities and we don't like to just survive. We feel like we need to always do the best, be the best, and do all of the things all of the time. But it was okay. And I tell you, I reached out to my boss who had power and I said, listen, I'm not going to get to this today because I may have power for 15 minutes. I may not. I need to hand this off to you. And I'll tell you, from the first time in 7 years, that's the only time I've ever handed something off. The bank was okay. Like, I did it and it was like, what's going to happen? And sometimes we're so afraid to let go.
Yeah.
We're so afraid of just saying, I can only do.
I can't do it.
And I can't do it. I cannot do it. Because for so many times and so often, it's like, well, I'm going to find a way. Like by hook or by crook, I'm going to find a way to get it done. And Tara, you and I often find a way to get it done. This week, I had to throw my hands up and say, I can't get it done. But what I did need was my husband to find a way to get me those chips. So we sent him out in the ice storm. I said, I need you to Lewis and Clark it to the gas station.
Little Debbie's cakes.
Listen, the strawberry. I just needed salt. And I needed something because I could not survive on strawberries and spinach anymore. It was a good idea last week. Like, I really was trying to focus on healthful eating.
Yeah.
But this week I said, please. And he did. He was able to get us the chips and the cookies and the things that we didn't want to eat. But you know what? I gave myself grace. I gave myself the ability to say, like, this is what my body needs. I'm sitting on this couch playing cards with my kid and beating everyone in my family at Clue. So this is what I also realized about myself. I do not like to lose. And it's been this way.
You just now realize that about yourself?
I sense some judgment creeping in, Tara. Okay. Self-awareness is key, but yeah, well.
I mean, have you met you?
Met me. Okay, so there have been times when I played games and teaching Rome how to play games, and his dad and my mother used to always be like, well, can you please let the little boy win? I said, why?
No. No. I'm with you. No. But how's he going to learn?
How's he going to learn? What I mean? Like, he's not always going to win at life. He's not going to win at this board game of life.
That's right.
And then it's like, he's like, Mom.
How will he get better if I don't teach him how to get better?
And so that's what we focused on doing, is making each other better, and doing that through keeping my win streak alive at every game we play in this house.
So did you guys play a lot of board games while you were holed up?
Yeah. And I realized that we did some things that we as a family, a lot of times don't do in this age, where people disconnect and people retreat to their own computers and devices and video games. It was some time that we could spend together. But also there were times where we were waiting for the devices to charge and for the internet to come back on and kind of do our own things.
Separate out.
Yeah. But it was me realizing from the beginning, and for Roman finally realizing. And he said to me one day, probably a couple of days into it, and he had reached out to some of his friends who had pipes burst in their houses, and they had houses flooded, and they were doing the garbage bag trick like you talked about because they didn't have toilets. So he was like, Mom, this was happening to so-and-so, and this is what the situation was with one of this friends. He said, we're actually really lucky, aren't we? And I looked at him and I said, Rome, we are so lucky, and I'm not just talking about this week.
Right.
And that's what I want you to take with you through this life. Because in so many situations, you are going to be coming into situations from where you stand and what you have. And something that I was told when I was growing up, and I try to impart on him, it's this simple adage. It's hard to understand someone else's hunger when your belly is full. And because of some of the things that Roman has, and he's had since before he was born, because my husband and I have just worked really hard to have some of the things that we have, he doesn't know what it's like to go hungry.
Yeah.
None of us knew what it was like to go without heat, but I can guarantee you what I will do is I will look at and situations through a different lens now that I've experienced it. And some of the resources that we have allotted to different groups, maybe I'll look into expanding that and expanding my time and our time to volunteer at other places and locations where we can be of service.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Gage and I were together kind of working through people we can help and like looking at people who needed more help. And so he did that with me. And I was thinking today when I was looking at some of the resources we're going to share with our audience, like there are some pretty good volunteer opportunities over the next couple of weeks. And I said, I think we could get out and do some more of this, and we could absolutely be handing out water and heading over to the food bank. I know they're going to need a lot of help, and I'm going to make sure I get out and donate blood this week. I mean, I'm going to make sure I'm really getting us out there and making sure that we're doing what we can now that we're kind of settled.
Yeah, doing what we can with what we have and where we're at.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, you all know my mom is an English teacher. She's going to be listening to that line like,
no. Listen, sometimes it has to be a little incorrect to really hit home. Yeah. That's how it works.
And sometimes, again, it's just okay.
Yeah.
It's just okay to be. And as we look back at the week that we were indoors again, the sun has now started to come out in Texas. Things have started to thaw. And we've started to realize that nothing is permanent. Nothing is forever.
Nothing is forever. I said that to Gage so many times this week.
And so where we are, we kind of look forward to where we're going to be and where we should be, and then what we can do to get there. But when we're in it, moms, just make sure that we understand that when we're in it, it's okay just to be doing whatever you need to survive the season of life that we're in, and to reach out to people around us. That's kind of my takeaway from this week, Tara. It's to love other people and love them well, and love yourself strongest and first. What did you take away from this week?
Yeah, my takeaway is I was so grateful that we all had each other in the house. You know what I mean? I was just so grateful to be holed up with my family. If it was going to be anybody, I was glad it was them. And, it really made me appreciate them even more. And then, I had a couple of text chains going where, some friends knew we were without power, and they just every morning, every afternoon, just checking on us, and, just made us feel like we weren't alone, even though it kind of felt like we were alone. And so just to make sure that I'm doing the same for others, and making sure I'm making those connections, which I think it's been an odd thing for a year now. And so just knowing that we still have those connections, even when it doesn't feel like we do, it's really important.
So check in on your people. Check in on yourself. Check in on your kids. We know that this year has been tough on us, and I'm sure it's been tough on them in ways we can't imagine. Tara says this a lot. Tara says, these little humans are having their own experiences. So we make
they are.
Yeah. So make sure that you check in on our kids, because they're going to be case studies for psychologists and sociologists for years to come.
Did I tell you? Are you the one I said that to?
You did.
They're going to be studying this generation for a long time.
Absolutely.
They're going to have their own name.
Right. So this week, as we aim to survive, we're surviving, and we survived this week, which unfortunately so many Texans did not. And I want to make sure that we remember those whose lives have been lost senselessly, because we as a community and a society were ill prepared, and we will do better to be better prepared in the future. So this week we'll end with the famous poet laureate Maya Angelou and her words. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. So right now, survival is okay. But ultimately, our goal as a community is to have a community, a family that thrives. Take that with you this week as we go forward, as we thaw, as we heal, as we move on. And at some point, Tara, we'll get back on plan with our scheduled episodes.
We will. This was just, I was like, I don't think there's anything else we could talk about this week. This is the only thing to talk about. But family, make sure you come and check out our social. We are going to post today some resources that if you are looking to help out, there are some great resources doing a lot of really good work in the communities right now all over the state. So we're going to post that on our Instagram at Black and White Momcast. As usual, we love having you with us. I'm not going to plug it big, but make sure you're listening to us. Make sure you subscribe. We do have a lot of great episodes coming up, and we're excited to bring them to you. So anywhere you're listening to us, hit subscribe so you don't miss those. We appreciate you so much.
As always, guard your health, mental, physical, and spiritual. We'll add to that this week. Check in on people in your life. For that, we thank you for sharing time and for listening and for being a part of our family, podcast family. Take good care.